Now it's time to make this phone pocket. So this phone pocket that I'm about to make, I'm making with just one strand of yarn. This one I made with two different colors, so I had two strands of yarn. But the one that I'm currently making goes with this little water bottle bag, and this child only wanted it with one single color, so that is what we are using. And that means when I start my chain on this one, I'm actually going to leave a really long tail because we're chaining with doubled yarn here, just to give the bottom a little bit added thickness, okay, and also to make sure that our chain isn't too gives us the right measurement that we're looking for. What you're going to do then is chain until your chain, don't chain too tightly, but chain until your chain is about an inch wider than your phone. Okay, this particular child happens to be at their grandmother's right now with their phone, so I'm using this bag I already made that I know is the right size. Once you have your chain to the length that you want, you're going to switch to just one strand of yarn. So let's see, here is my tail, here is my one strand of yarn. If I were using two colors, then I would just choose whichever color I want to use for the first round. Now I have my one strand of yarn. I'm going to chain one loosely, okay? So chain one nice and loose. And then I'm going to half double crochet into the back loop only of the second chain from my hook. So I'm going to ignore this one. I'm going to half double crochet into the back loop only of this chain. So one, okay, there we go. And now I'm going to half double crochet into the back loop only of each chain all the way across. Okay, I've made my half double crochet into each chain all the way across, into the back loop only of each chain all the way across. And now what I'm going to do is continue making half double crochets into the opposite chain. So this was the back loop. Right now I'm going to do it in the front loop, but of course when I turn my work, it becomes the new back loop. Call it what you want. The important thing is it's the opposite chain. Okay, the opposite loop on the chains that you've already worked. That's what you're doing. Making more half double crochets so that you've gone around in a loop. Okay, I have gone all the way around. So now what I'm going to do is slip stitch to the top of the first half double crochet that I made. So find the top of the first half double crochet and slip stitch. Now I have a little trick that I'm doing to know when I've hit the end of my round, because I found that with this stitch we're doing, it's really easy to have no clue where you're supposed to join the round. So we're going to do a little cheat with, it's not even a cheat, we're going to use a little trick with a stitch marker. So I have my little removable stitch marker here. I am now going to chain one loosely. So I'm going to pull this loop a little bit kind of long, okay, and chain one, and then I'm going to take my stitch marker and put it through just the back half. Okay, so here. I chained one loosely and I've got this loop on my hook, right? I'm taking my stitch marker and putting it through just the little back half of that loop on my hook, okay? There we go. Now we're going to make half double crochets in the, I spun myself around here. Okay, here is the front of my half double crochets. We're going to make half double crochets around, but we're going to put them in the back and the third loop of our stitch, okay? So here is the back loop of my stitch. So half double crochet starts with the yarn over. Here's the back loop of my stitch, but then underneath the back loop of my stitch is also the third loop. And that's where I'm putting my half double crochet, through the back loop and the third loop. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through two. So I'll show you that again. Yarn over, insert my hook through the back loop. Okay, so I'm going into the middle. Instead of going under here, I'm going into the middle. So I'm getting under the back loop and the third loop. Okay, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through two. Doing this, it gives you this little ridged look here, but it also just kind of, it pulls the stitch a little tighter so that when the stitch gets pulled, you don't get those little holes in between it. So it makes it really good for something you want to be solid. And while your water bottle holder, you don't mind if it's see-through, that's totally fine. Your phone pocket, you probably don't want see-through because you might be putting credit cards or money or whatever in there as well. And you don't want, you don't want to entice people. You don't want to show off, everything that you've tossed in there along with your phone. So you're going to do this all the way around, and then once I get all the way around, I'll show you how that stitch marker comes in handy. So here I am. I have gone all the way around, and what's left is my chain one that started my my round 2, and of course the stitch, the top of the very first stitch that I made, which is the one that is marked. So I'm going to go ahead and put my hook through that back loop, which is what's marked, and the third loop that's right behind it. Yarn over and pull through and just make that slip stitch and pull that slip stitch nice and tight. Okay, you do want that to be tightened up because you don't want to accidentally mistake that for a stitch later. Okay, and then end up making a V-shaped something or other. All right, so now I'm keeping that loop a little bit loose so that I can chain one loosely. And I am again tossing this marker, the stitch marker, on the back loop on the back of the loop on my hook. Now I'm going to half double crochet right where I slip stitched, and half double crochet in each stitch around, again through the back loop and the third loop. Half double crochet through the back loop and the third loop of each stitch around. When I get to the end of this row, I'm going to show you what the end of this row looks like, because then we're just going to repeat this row over and over again until this is our desired height for our phone pocket, which should be just like ½ inch to 1 inch taller than our phone. Okay, so I'm about to make my very last stitch here through the back loop and third loop. There we go. And now you can see there's that really tight slip stitch. All right, it's too tight for me to work into. So I mean, that's great. That means that helps me know that I'm not supposed to work into it. So that's that really tight slip stitch. And then here is my loose chain one. And then here is the marked stitch. Okay, so you have your last stitch, then there's the slip stitch, then there's the chain one, and then there's the marked stitch. That's how you know you have truly reached the end of this round. Now we slip stitch, we go through that marked stitch, the back loop and the third loop, and then slip stitch. I remove the marker and I pull that slip stitch nice and tight. I keep that loop a little bit loose and chain one, and then I can put the marker back on again. Then you put your first half double crochet through the back and third loop right in the exact same spot you just slip stitched into. And then you keep going with those half double crochets in the back and third loop all the way around, and this round is the same as the previous round we just finished. Do that over and over until this is about ½ inch to 1 inch taller than your phone. But this point where we are right now is the perfect time for you to take your phone and sit it in there and make sure it sits in there with just a little bit of extra space on the sides, okay? So make sure that whatever you want to fit in here will fit in here. If it's not a phone, if it's something else, you want to make sure at this point that it fits, because you don't want to get too high up through your pocket and discover that it's not the right size. So now that we have finished our phone pocket, it's time to actually add the little hanging strings on. What I have here are 2 little jump rings that they're just little circles with a split. You'll see that clear in a moment. And they're about 1/4 inch. And then 2 lobster clasps. Okay, and you could use some that are a tiny bit bigger if you want. If the lobster clasps already have a jump ring or split ring attached to them, you're good to go. If not, then I'm going to show you how to attach this ring to this lobster clasp. So you're going to look at your little ring, and there's a slit in it, and you want to just hold onto the ring next to the slit. Okay, and you do want to do this with some sort of pliers or something that can really hold on well. And then you're going to grab the other side of the ring, so the split is in between your two sets of pliers, and you're going to open them side to side. Okay, you open the split ring side to side like that. See how it's open side to side? I didn't pull it, I opened it side to side. If you pull it, you weaken the ring. Now, I'm just going to slide my lobster clasp onto the ring, and you see I never let go of the jump ring in my dominant hand, and then I go ahead and I grab the other side of the jump ring again, and I twist it back in place, and then I take a look and make sure that it looks like I went a little too far there, so I'm just going to kind of, there we go, push it back together. And if you need to use the two pliers to get it lined up better, you can. If you found that when you did that you actually left a little gap there, rather than trying to like shove it together this way again, you can just kind of open it and then reclose it and kind of try to get it closer together as you reclose it. So I'll show you that again. We have our other jump ring. I'm going to grab it with my pliers, grab the other half with my pliers so that the slit is right on the top there. Going to twist it open rather than yanking it open. Going to slide my lobster clasp on, and then I'm going to twist it back close again, and then take a look, make sure everything looks all nice and neat, and there we go. And now it's time to add the little straps. So I would just grab either 2 safety pins or 2 stitch markers, lay your pocket flat, okay? Make sure it's laying the way it wants to lay. So I have mine all nice and flat here. It's all happy and the way it wants to be. And put a pin or a stitch marker on the 2 little fold sections so you know where you want your 2 straps to be. Then you go ahead, grab your yarn, open up your pocket, and what I do is I kind of attach my yarn with a slip stitch just a tiny ways down, like just like 1 row below the top. Okay, so just gonna slip stitch that on there, and then I'm going to get this safety pin out of my way and just slip stitch directly into the top of that stitch. Okay, and now I'm going to chain. You want to chain between 8 and 10 depending on how tall you want your strap to be, or you can do even more than 10 or even less than 8, whatever you want. But I'm going to do, because this is the thicker yarn, I'm going to do 9. If I were using the thinner yarn, I might do 10 or even 11. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I'm going to remove my hook from the loop. I'm going to kind of push the loop flat and shove it through that the ring on the end of the lobster clasp, and that's why you need that ring. You need to be able to get your yarn through the ring. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm just going to do another chain to kind of close that in place. Then I'm skipping that chain I just made, and I'm going to slip stitch into the bottom bump of each of the rest of the chains. So I skipped the chain that was attaching the lobster clasp, and I'm slip stitching into the bottom bump of all of the rest of the chains. Also, if you're using the really thin yarn, so when the couple of these that I've made with a We Crochet or Knit Picks Galileo yarn, I've actually held 2 yarns together as one, two strands of yarn together as one when I did this part, just because I want to make sure that it's nice and sturdy. I don't want to lose my phone because my straps aren't sturdy enough, right? So I've gone all the way to the bottom there, Then I'm going to open this back up again and do one more slip stitch just inside my pocket again, okay? Then I'm going to find my scissors, cut my yarn, and then just yarn over and pull all the way through and tighten that. Then I'm going to weave in these ends really well, and when I weave in these ends, I'm probably also going to kind of sew this bottom down a little better as well, because of course, once you've put both of these on, you will have your little clippy straps. So don't cheap out on your lobster clasps, because you know, it's fine if you can find something that, you know, that is affordable but still good, but don't get something really that just isn't sturdy enough. And I don't like the kind of clasps that are like the traditional necklace kind of clasps, because those tend to fail too often. So this is how I like to do it, and I use 2 of them, and then you can clip it onto your water bottle holder. You can either clip it in 2 places onto the water bottle holder, or you can take your 2 straps and you can kind of clip them together. Although I do really prefer to clip them into the water bottle holder so that each clasp is holding on to something different. So if one of them fails, the other one is still doing its job. All right, so there you go. Now you can finish everything up and have your Call Me Hydrated water bottle holder and phone pocket.